What's up, ServiceNow community? I'm Mark Scott, and I have had just a crazy couple of weeks. I got a haircut, as you can tell. I really needed it. If you couldn't tell from all of the videos that I've been posting, it's been bad. I got to be on an episode of BreakPoint with Chuck Tomasi, which was huge. Huge for me. Definitely a bucket list item kind of checked off there. And while I was there, Chuck even gave me a microphone and a soundboard. And so that is why I now sound so much better and I look so much better with this amazing microphone in front of me. And I have adorned it with all sorts of professional streaming things that, make you look cool. I also went to Las Vegas and just checked on it. It's still there and running. The casinos are still up and running. It still smells like carpet shampoo and cigarette smoke. So good news there. Good news there. Finally, the channel hit 100 subscribers. I mean, I'm just floored. This is amazing. Thank you so much, everybody, for your subscriptions, for watching the videos, for all the likes and encouragement that you've been giving me. But mostly a huge shout out to Phil Swan, who just inspired me to get the channel up and running, and has been a huge advocate for me, pushing and making sure that I get everything kind of set up and everyone is paying attention to me. So thank you so much, Phil, for everything that you've been doing, and I really appreciate it. Let's talk about something that I am super passionate about, and that's how I take my notes and how I store them and where they go when I'm done with them. I use a product called Rocketbook. Now, Rocketbook does not sponsor the channel. They don't give me any money for this. I just really like their product, so I'm going to tell you about it. This is a Rocketbook folio, okay? You can get different types of Rocketbooks that allow you to mark up and erase. They're completely erasable. They've got a little towel here, and all you do is wet the little towel and you can erase your notes. The reason I use this is not because it's erasable, but because once I'm done, you can see there's a little QR code down here, and I can use my phone to input my notes and track them, push them into the cloud. And I actually use one other note-taking tool that everyone I think should use, which is OneNote. I will upload my notes into Rocketbook, and then Rocketbook automatically uploads those into OneNote. My notes are always backed up and ready to go. I don't have to worry about it, and they're backed up on multiple different devices. But the other thing is, I've got a whiteboard, right? And I need a way to take my notes from my whiteboard and put them in the same spot, right? I want all my notes to go into the same spot. So what I have is I have 4 little orange corners, and I've taped them to my whiteboard, okay? And here's a picture of my whiteboard, and you can see the 4 orange corners here. And what these do is these tell Rocketbook that these are the 4 outer boundaries of my whiteboard, and I can actually take a picture of this and push that into Rocketbook as well. And that really helps kind of streamline things, because it doesn't matter where or how I've taken my notes, be it my whiteboard or my folio. I can still upload them into Rocketbook, and they all go into the same spot. My pen is a totally different story. My pen actually comes from Japan, and these use the Frixon inserts into them, and it actually has multiple colors. If you look at that, you can see there's multiple colors that I can choose from. So when I'm taking my notes, what's really neat is I can actually color code different sections, and those different sections become headings, or I can highlight something, or if I'm trying to delete something, I usually use red, and I can just use different colors, which is really nice to have at a moment's notice when I can just switch colors real fast without having to look for a pen. The other thing I did was I bought one of those sweater vests that you always see sales guys wearing. I wonder if I put it on, if I'll get some magic sales ability. Let's try it. And no. Welcome back to the other side of the show, dear internet friends. I am joined today with my dear friend and podcast co-host, Andrew Albury-Dor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just get the awkward out of the way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is not between two functions. This is, even though it may look like it, this is the Phoenix Dev Show. Just in case you didn't know, but Andrew and I decided to just hop on real fast and have a discussion about how our hobbies potentially could become something that helps you in your job later on. So, Andrew, I'm going to let you expand on that.
Yeah, sure. So this kind of came about, one, because I've recently started a new hobby, and while it doesn't have a direct impact to my ServiceNow journey, it's always interesting when you get into something new, I find, and it kind of shows you your learning capacity when you are really interested in a thing. And it's definitely how ServiceNow kicked off for me. It was a new thing. I was very interested, and so you sort of sponge a lot more than if you're, I don't know, sitting in a classroom in Economics 101 and you're like, oh, I'm not interested in this. It's really interesting to see how different subjects can change the way that you feel about learning and how interested you are. But anyway, the story.
Sure.
So I work in a team of 6-7 developers for a customer of ServiceNow, and one of the more junior developers that we have. She's really awesome. She's been picking it up lately, but she came to me about maybe 6 or 8 months ago, a bit upset. One of the other people in the team had been a bit short with her and sort of like, oh, you should know this, that sort of thing. And it was not her fault. He was going through a hard time. So she's like, oh, you're fairly new on the team. You're a senior developer. You came in as a senior developer. Everyone sort of can tell that you're quite competent at what you do. How do you get to that point? And I was like, look, what experience do you have? What history do you have with not just ServiceNow, but tech, IT as a whole? And she's like, oh, I did a bit of programming in college. She's got a bachelor of IT business, something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
So like college educated, but it was never a hobby for her in the past, right? I don't know the history of why she got into that degree, but here we are. And I said, look, for me, I'm 30-something, 32 years old, and I've been playing with computers since I was like 6.
Right. Yep.
My dad was in IT, and he had a freaking, I don't know, Apple II or something like that sitting under the house, and he had some games on it, and that was kind of my introduction to this weird world that we live in.
We had a Windows 3.1 machine with paint on it. That was like my favorite thing. It's getting on there and making little paint pictures, right? Like,
Yeah, so I think I remember Snake with like an old school arcade handle thing that had. So that was one of my first sort of IT memories. And then there was like Windows 9. The first honest to goodness memory I have of Windows is 98 SE.
Okay.
Like installing it, the sort of install screen of Windows 98. Good memories for me.
Yeah, Windows 98. I think I can see the entire like start menu. Like I could probably, like I mean, Windows 98 and XP, I think, live in infamy, at least in the Windows world, where like I could probably walk you through an XP installation blindfolded, at this point. Like, it's like, I know I could probably click the button, like the mouse buttons, without knowing where it was. Because you get like
the random number. The random number generator on the minutes remaining on the Windows 98 install, where it's like 4, 37, 6, 2, 49.
And it just jumps around,
so good. Anyway, so, my history is very different. Like, going through high school, I started getting into and understanding, I guess you would say, like, early web platforms.
Sure. Okay.
Stuff like PHP BB, like bulletin boards.
Yeah, the BB boards.
They have these kind of basic CRUD, user
Mm-hmm.
roles, database backends, front
Yep.
ends, like all of the stuff that you kind of look at as a ServiceNow developer,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh yeah, it kind of makes sense. Like
I
it's
compare it.
rudimentary. The idea of a platform, and it's like
Mhm.
a contained thing that has a purpose, and you can customize it a bit. You know, it was hard
Sure.
code back in the day, but you can get it to do what you want within the bounds of the thing that it is.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
Right.
sense.
And
Yeah.
that was what, 15? Oh, bloody hell. How old
Yeah.
am I? It was a long time ago, you
Well,
know, 15
yeah,
years.
that was a while ago. But
Yeah.
I
Like,
finally remembered my thought. I would compare it to like WordPress today, right? Where it was like you could do
exactly.
almost anything with it.
Yeah. So WordPress is the next evolution of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh.
Like, I'm trying to explain this to my colleague who
Mm-hmm.
is a relatively new developer. And I'm like, you know, I've been on ServiceNow for 4.5, 5 years
Mm-hmm.
now. That's a lot of experience. You've been on for 18 months,
Right.
maybe
Right.
2 years. Like, that's different. And you didn't start as a developer. You weren't thrown into the fire
Mm-hmm.
of, you need to make this thing work. You were just, here's a platform that's been running for 10
Right.
years. Do a
Keep it up.
process on
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like she was a fulfiller for change, or you know, something like
Right.
that,
Right.
change manager esque thing. Um, and you know, you can't blame yourself for not being as kind of intuitive and quick as someone who has such a different background and set of experiences as
Yep.
yourself. And
Yeah.
yeah, sort of bring it all back.
Yeah.
That was my hobby, and that was a thing that I really like. IT, tech, web
Yep. Yep.
stuff was a hobby of mine, and to push that sort of into the now, ServiceNow development is not cutting edge tech. You
No.
know,
No.
we've got an older version of JavaScript, we've got a database backend, that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure most people who would be watching this would be aware of our other good friend Jace
Jace.
and
Mm-hmm.
his evolution of skills heading towards the Jamstack
Mm-hmm.
and those new tech
Yeah.
things. Like ServiceNow is doing that as well, but not quite at the
Yeah,
same pace.
with the now experience in the React components and things like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely coming. But yeah, it's so funny because I think what our dear internet friends don't know is that Yumi and Jace are in a and Mike Barr as well are in a Discord channel where we're. I mean, I don't know. We talk to each other like at least once a week. And
Oh yeah.
and it's so incredible to see Jace like, hey, here's Redwood JS, here's this backend that I'm building, here's this news aggregator that I'm building. It's like, dude, when do you sleep? Like, when do you have
Yeah.
time for this? And that's
Yeah,
what.
he's up
Yeah.
he's up when I'm trying to go to bed. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what time is it there? He's like, oh, it's 4 a.m. or something. I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah.
He's got kids as well. Anyway.
Well, kids,
Anyway.
he's got a morning stand-ups and stuff. It's like he's got to go to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how do you not sleep and go to work? But it's actually pretty funny because he gets us kind of wound up and spun up on some of this stuff, which is cool.
Mhm.
But man, yeah, you're totally right. And it's, I compare it to a slide rule. And I know that sounds a little weird, but you know, I'm always gaining skills. You're always gaining skills. Jace is always gaining
Mhm.
skills. And I always like to tell my early in career guys, it's not about being the best or being as good as I am. You'll never be as good as I am. And I'm not saying that from a hubris standpoint. I'm saying I'm always learning. So the scale is always moving, right? I'm
Yeah.
always learning, just like this other person's always learning. So the 18-month person that you're talking about, it's like, you're never going to catch up to me. And that's okay. That's totally fine because you're going to go learn something
Yeah.
totally different that I have no clue what that is. And that
Yeah.
when we work together, it's amazing, right? It's peanut butter and jelly and everybody's happy.
Mhm.
But yeah, don't try to. I really feel that early in career people, just like we have things like imposter syndrome, we also have this problem of comparing ourselves to, that person, that mentor, that person that's doing well on the team, whatever it is. And it's just like, yeah, of
Yeah.
course they're doing well in their thing and you can do well in your thing. Don't feel discouraged because you're not writing the same level of code as they are. Of course you're not. Like, nobody expects you to.
To sort of bring this back to the original topic,
Mhm.
hobbies, I want to just talk about stuff that isn't ServiceNow for a little bit. What I'm excited about at the moment,
Is it cupboards?
outside it kind of is, and it's also like I don't know how much I talk about some of this stuff with the community at large.
Yeah.
So I have always been one of these people that kind of gets really into a thing for 12, 18 months. And I'm just like, oh, yeah, this thing, everything's about this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll move on to something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll still have that weird repository of knowledge
Mm-hmm.
about this
Mm-hmm.
other thing that I was into.
Yeah.
So stuff like watches. Like
Mm-hmm.
I really like
Mm-hmm.
a fancy watch. And, people will be like, oh, yeah, Rolex. And it's like, okay, Rolex is nice. But what about, Audemars PA or Jaeger LeCoultre or all of these other like super fancy things.
Man.
And it's like, oh, I know the model of watch that I'd buy if I had a spare 20, 50, 100 grand. Obviously.
Spare. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not... And this is
if
where
someone wants to bankroll Andrew right now for his fancy watch collection, like we'll open a Patreon, we'll do it, and we'll take up a collection.
Oh yeah. And depending on where you go is whether I buy like a Seiko or...
You know what we should all do, and it's going to cost so much money. We should all just send Andrew Casio watches. Like, go buy the cheapest possible watch you can find and box it up for $120, I'm sure, and ship it off to Andrew in Australia just to stick it to him.
Honestly, I'd appreciate it. Like, always happy to have more in my collection.
Look at that. Yeah.
Anyway,
it's so funny. It's so funny that you wanted to talk about that. I'm sorry. I know I'm talking over you, but it's my show. Okay. I'm taking control. I actually said I compare myself to Archimedes a lot in the bathtub, right? Which is whatever. But like when I'm in the shower, I get really awesome thoughts. And I actually thought in the shower today. Literally today, I was thinking in the shower, and I yelled out to my wife. I'm like, Ashley, did you know that I could probably talk for about 10 minutes about Bob Ross? I'm like, I have enough, like you say, right? I have enough knowledge of Bob Ross that I'm like, I could probably riff about Bob Ross for 10 minutes. I'm like, why is that taking up rent space, for free in my head? I have no idea. But yeah, I could talk about Bob Ross, just like you're saying. It's like, yeah, I just happened to do like this intense research on Bob Ross because I was watching Bob Ross videos. So,
yeah. And, for me, other things that I like, whiskey, Scotch whiskey specifically. Like I've been to Scotland, I've been to some distilleries. I have a collection of like 40 or 50 bottles at the moment that are, varying prices, but it's something that I really like. And I'm not a heavy drinker. I'll have maybe a drink a week, maybe. But because I've got such a collection, you can spread that drink around and the bottles basically never run out. It's awesome.
Well, beyond that,
really good.
Beyond that too. I mean, I guess, you get to say that you like to look at your whiskey. Like you're a true connoisseur, right? Like, you sip it and swirl it and then you look at it and it's like, you go through the full like
you
bouquet.
Nose it, and you check the palate and the finish and lots of fancy stuff.
Andrew, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for, I'm sorry.
No
go ahead.
worries. I was going to say, I give you permission to like cut some of my rants and just put up like a blah, 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 blah.
No, I won't do that, but I'll cut things out. Maria Gabrielle and I talked for like an hour and a half, I think. And it was like, it was just way too much to edit. Like I just couldn't handle it. It was like, overload. And it took me days to get through that.